welcome to another PsyMood web series episode here. My name is Ross. I am your host as always. I am truly honored and thankful for all of you to attend this evening. Today we're talking about mental fitness, and we're going to dive deep into that because it's an interesting topic that ourselves even are discussing prior to this webinar. We have two amazing human beings. We have Tiffany and we have Katie. I'm so excited to introduce you to both of them. These individuals are very powerful in the field of mental health and mental solutions and holistic nutrition, holistic health. It is absolutely an honor to have them here. If you haven't been to one of our webinars before, my name is Ross, as I was saying. I am a hospice chaplain, a psycho-spiritual specialist, and I work in the end-of-life care in the neglected and disadvantaged communities here in Ontario and in Canada. And along with that, I am also part of the PsyMood team doing the webinars and podcasts, which we will discuss a little bit later in the episode. But first, I would love to introduce you to our individual speakers. And Tiffany, I will start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi Ross. Hi everyone. I am a music therapist and registered counseling therapist, body-centered counselor, yogi, all many hats. And I love to assist people with a wide range of, I guess we call it mental health concerns, and using all kinds of different practices, alternative practices, I guess we'll call them as well, all these labels, hey?
Yeah.
So helping people connect to body and spirit as a way to heal their difficulties.
Fantastic. And, you know, I think we're going to dive real deeply into all of these alternatives. I know I keep going to use air quotes all the time, but it's so many different alternatives and different scenarios and solutions that we're going to use, but health in general, about our mental and physical and emotional health is too. And Katie, I would love for us to learn a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Ross. Hello, community. My name is Katie. I'm a retired social worker, youth worker, and about 6 years ago, I shifted gears and came into private practice as a psycho practitioner. So, merging the traditional psychology with holistic mediums such as yoga, mindfulness, and meditation. That's gifted me the opportunity over the last 6 years to work with veterans, first responders, and those moving through trauma, both on and off the mat.
Amazing. Well, I mean, we've all done podcasts with each other. Tiffany and Katie, we did podcast episodes together, and it was absolutely an honor to speak with both of you. And I know the insights and discussions that we'll have this evening is going to be fulfilling just as we did on the episodes of the podcast. But the funny thing is we were all talking before this episode and the webinar, talking about mental fitness and what is mental fitness. Even ourselves in the space, as they say, we're going, I think I know what mental fitness is. I believe I know what it is. But in some cases, I think this is a topic that it is okay not to fully understand and be aware of what mental fitness is, because this is how the discussing it together is important. Because a lot of people may think they know what mental fitness is, but in some cases, having different alternatives, different thoughts about it is actually extremely healthy. And for me, I think mental fitness is when I'm going to bed at night, I feel that my body is rested, but my mind is going all over the place. And that's one thing that I've struggled with personally in my life, was trying to calm my mind down. And mental fitness, I always thought, was training myself for an IQ test, which I would fail, or these exams and school exams. But in some cases, it's aligning your mind with your body, and also aligning it with mindfulness, holistic opportunities, calmness, observation, self-awareness, self-inquiry, as they say. But for me, it's calming the mind down, allowing my mind to be aligned with my body. If my body is relaxed, my mind should be relaxed too. But, you know, Tiffany, what are your thoughts on mental fitness?
Yeah, and I was one of the people that I was like, I'm not quite sure what this word is, and I'm sure that some of the people tuning in might not be completely familiar with that term and just what it means. And so it was good to have a conversation about it and just get clearer that way. But I tend to think about body and mind as super connected, and so I don't necessarily separate the two. And if I'm having challenges around restlessness or negative thoughts or As you said, the swirling thoughts and swirling busy mind, I usually take it into the body. I usually consider it a matter of connecting with my body as well, as a way to assist with that. And I think of it as a whole person experience.
Right. And that's so key, because if our mind is not fully aware and fully aligned with our body, it could play havoc on our body. Like many times we feel that we're down with our mind, we're feeling low, but our body is still moving. And we sometimes want to have everything aligned perfectly, but it's so difficult, especially in this time of uncertainty. Is I feel good with my physical body, but my mind is not quite there yet too, as well. And Katie, what are your thoughts on like the mental fitness side of things?
Well, I first want to thank Tiffany, who started up this kind of
Yeah.
background conversation where we were all kind of like, do we know it? Do we not know it? And I had just, landed with you, Ross. This was very humbling. It was like coming to a place of humbling, of realizing what is mental fitness. So to jump off of exactly what you've said, both of you, it's really the ability to meet yourself at a place of strength from day-to-day life. And the word resiliency
Mm.
seems to land there if you want to put a label that kind of floats around.
Yeah, and that's really key. And I mean, for me, I think my personal experience with mental fitness came after grief and bereavement, like loss of a loved one. Losing my mom in 2017, my innate thought was physically, I got to get back into it. I need to get back into the world, work, 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 distraction, distraction. And throughout that process of trying to kind of hide behind that I'm okay, I look okay, everything is okay kind of feeling, but realizing I was so focused on the emphasis of physical activity and physical well-being that my mind wasn't aligned. And I found that over time, once they started connecting, I realized I wasn't mentally fit yet. I still had a lot of processing to go through. And part of mental fitness, I find, is going through the process, understanding the process of grief, or going through those feelings of loss, or even just confusion sometimes. And I found that once I aligned myself with, if I take the time to work out my body, then I need to take the time to ground myself, meditate, work on my mental cognitive health, because if they're not aligned, we're not working properly, right? And for me, meditation was such a big part of that, because it was the only time where it was quiet and I had that opportunity to be still and silent and present with myself. And both of you are so powerful and profound in this world of, holistic solutions, meditation, yoga, music therapy. Like if someone is coming to you individually with kind of the same feeling as myself, like mental fitness, I'm struggling, Tiffany, what are your thoughts on like the process you would recommend them going through?
Yeah, one of the places that I start with, and I think that thoughts and swirling thoughts or difficult thoughts are really intricately linked with feelings and emotions. And this is really good news when it comes to music, because that's one of the places. I mean, music can really benefit us and assist us in many ways, but definitely it's one of the first places, when I talk about music therapy or music and healing, it's a really identifiable place that most people can associate with, or just using music for mood and for emotional support, if you will. And so I usually end up, in order to work with these difficult thoughts, negative thoughts, however you want to call them or label them, usually digging into the emotions is a great place to start. And then from that, again, is that connection to feeling, emotional feeling, with sensing or feeling in the body, right? So connecting it into that process as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Actually, it makes perfect sense to me. And it is very true, because, you know, we don't really take the time to focus on our mental well-being and our mental fitness. We are in a world where we are go, 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 go. And we're so focused on the physical innate ability to be like, I'm good, don't worry about it. But are we? And, invasive thoughts, or those negative thoughts, those processes are healthy to go through that. And, having that support is very healthy too, as well. Of, supporting them going through that process. Yes, having those thoughts is healthy. Let's go through it. Let's dive deep into it. Because if you're having those feelings towards fitness, like I really want to work out harder, we can do the same for our mental fitness too as well. And like Katie, for on your side of things, what would you recommend for individuals that are struggling with the mental fitness and, wanting to dive deeper into this?
Well, what's known is that, trauma starts in the mind and it lands in the body. So often we need to start to work the way upward, right? So, one of my mediums that I love is, and I work in extensively, is trauma informed yoga. So it's really adding in movement. How do we get the movement back into your body so that you can start to feel in your body? And when you're in your body and you start to feel in your body, and again, it goes back to that sense of strength and control, that resiliency, you can start to work on what else is going on, what else is spinning through that mind of yours because of the trauma, because of the stress, because of whatever's brought you to this moment. So yeah, movement is a big one on this end. And with the veterans and the first responders that I work with, they connect with the physical fitness side. They get that. So it aligns and it matches up, and the whole healing process comes from that.
Yeah. And that's so true, because we just don't seem to take enough time, and time is so precious in this world in regards to mental fitness and mental well-being and physical fitness. But we have a poll question going up, and please, if anyone has any questions, please go in the chat and we will go through them either during the talk or after. But the poll questions are very profound, or asking the right questions. Are you familiar with mental fitness? And it's like even, it's like 50-50. And I always think to myself, like, I wonder why mental fitness is not as predominant as like mental health or physical fitness or any kind of other things. Like, what do you think hinders us from speaking more about mental fitness? Like, Tiffany, what do you think?
I would probably say, and this is just a thought or a guess because I don't exactly know, but it's less tangible than, if you're working on your physical health. It's very easy to get those tangible results when you see, muscle growth, or you see improved health or endurance, or all the things that you might be aiming for when you're working on your physical health as opposed to mental health. So in a really basic way, that's one place to start. And also, if we start to think about mental fitness along the lines with mental health, which has been stigmatized for a long time, is starting to become less stigmatized, I suppose, or just talking about difficulties and issues, and not perceiving those as crazy or weakness or all that kind of thing. That process has just begun quite recently to really recognize that this is an important and valued part of ourself.
Now, do you think the stigma that comes from mental health, and I'm fully aware of that, because as a young child, I was diagnosed with everything, he's got these issues and learning disabilities and things like that. And I was always very fearful of that stigmatization of, will this follow me throughout my life? And if I even have this as a badge or something on my forehead that there's something going on, I'm always fearful of asking for support. But then also through that process, I also neglected asking for self-care support. Like, how can I feel better? Like, where is the right support? What is the right questions to ask? Because I think in some cases, we're so focused on looking a certain way that we neglect what happens within ourselves. And social media, I find in some cases is not necessarily good or bad, but sometimes can hinder mental fitness and people asking for that support. And self-care is so important in regards to physical and emotional. Katie, when you're working with the veterans and the individuals, frontline workers, frontline heroes, as I say, self-care is so important. What do you recommend for individuals like the veterans and frontline workers to do for self-care when it comes to their mental well-being?
Number one thing that comes to my mind, and that has been inspired with the veterans and first responders I worked with, is to completely scrap all the stereotypical views of what they think they need. So for a lot of first responders, they move away from wanting to come to the mat or doing mindfulness or doing meditation because there's a certain kind of stereotype of the person that does that. And because of that, they get very stuck in or not able to be in the curiosity of what this could actually host and gift to them. So I would really say to anyone that's watching this, scrap what you know, because it's what you don't know that's actually going to move you forward. And I've seen amazing things happen on the mat when, multi generations of first responders come to the mat. A daughter brings her father. We've had groups onto the mat, and it's the father who's coming up to me at the end and going, "This is what I needed. This is what I needed because I broke down what I thought yoga was and what I thought I was going to get, and saw a huge impact in just that 60 minutes on the mat."
That's amazing. I am learning to do yoga. I try to do it every morning, and I did it because I knew that I was, moving away from physical activity like sports. But I knew it was important to stay physically active because it was a benefit to my mental well-being too as well. And I found that yoga was so profound. It was really powerful for my well-being because I was pushing myself into movements and directions and body postures that honestly, I didn't think I could actually do. And then find out that these movements were so fulfilling, if I can say that I got more enjoyment out of these movements, simplicity of these movements, than I would in a gym for like 2 hours. And I find that I think more people need to realize that yoga is really very powerful when it comes to, physical well-being. But I also find that I don't want to say, laziness, but sometimes like physical activity, if I'm not in the mood to physically do it, I put it away. I say, I'm not interested. I'm tired. It's been a long day. We've been up all night or something like that. I don't have that tendency to really move forward with that. And I think when it comes to mental fitness, in some cases, people say, I don't have time. I'm busy. I don't have time to stay grounded. I don't have time to do mindful meditation or seek support. One of the poll questions is do you take weekly self-care sessions? And a lot of it is no, it's 50-50. In a busy world, especially after the pandemic, we have to get back to work. We have to get more active. We have to survive. What would you both recommend? And I'll start with Tiffany, for self-care that you could do even on a busy schedule.
Okay, well, if we're talking music, which I guess I'll focus on here, a really great place to start and a really simple place to start for people are their playlists. I mean, most people these days are streaming their, various platforms and that kind of thing, and almost everyone that I talk to now has access to music online of some sort. And so from there, it's just a matter of taking, it doesn't even need to be that long. That it's often when I'm talking about self-care, and that's something that I work with people around, and we do groups around establishing self-care sanctuaries. It's just, it doesn't need to be this big, I'm taking, 2 hours, or I'm taking a full weekend retreat, or it doesn't have to be a big time investment actually to have a strong and big impact. And so that's really something that I like to, help people really understand and embrace, that, it's those 5-minute moments that can be built into the things that we're already doing, our morning coffee, or, even the commute kind of thing. Right. So there's that. So coming back to music, again, working with a playlist sort of intentionally, we're talking about a mental fitness or just a desired state. There's millions of kinds of music, millions of different flavors and that kind of thing, and almost always a kind of music that you'll resonate with that will help evoke a desired state, be it more focus, be it more clarity, be it more or to boost your mood. And so I usually invite people to just take a few moments to set up a playlist that's geared towards a desired state for themselves, and pick, it doesn't even need to be that many songs, 1 or 3 songs, that's, maybe about 10 minutes kind of thing. And you can have it on the background if they do have the time to just actually be with the music and put their attention on the music and do, as Katie was saying, movement's awesome and huge and a really great way to interact with music and sound, and really tune in with to what the response is. That can be enough to really perk someone up and give someone the boost that they need for self-care.
That's amazing. Because when we were doing our podcast, we were speaking about music therapy, and we had a lot of people messaging going, I didn't realize the importance of music. You know, we use music for enjoyment. You listen to it as you work or do things like that, and you find it a very comforting feeling. And a lot of us don't really dive deep into why we feel comfort with music. And I'm the same. I'll be honest with you. I was one of these individuals that this song really touches me, but I didn't really dive too deep into why. And the more I looked into it, I was realizing that this song that I continuously play over and over again, without this thought, I found out that that was my mom's favorite song when she was younger. This was a very profound song. It was one of the Beatles song. And I thought to myself, that song meant so much to me, but I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how powerful that song was and how powerful music is, because it vibrates a certain way in our mind. And it just makes us feel so good, you know?
Well, it can, and again, I will say, just it's really important to. There's a couple things to hone in on preferences, because not all music will do the same thing for each person. Even a song like Pharrell Williams' "Happy," for example, a song that a lot of people know. It's pretty upbeat. It's for some of the people I've worked with, it's associated with negative memories, and so it actually does the opposite of what it does for what the title is, or what it does for some people, for example. So taking that time to really tune in and bring awareness to, what does this piece of music actually do for me? Even though it's called happy, doesn't mean it's going to make me feel happy necessarily, especially if it's got other associations with it. And so being intentional that way with music is the way to actually get healing impact. In the background's nice, but it won't have as much of a healing impact as if you're taking time to actually, to be present and intentional with it.
Right. And that's true as well, because there's certain songs that are aggressive that could get you probably more distracted to finding that healing place and things like that.
But I will say also, there's research actually out on this, on regressive and death metal music. Yes, we usually think that, and yes, for a lot of people, yes. But for some people, that music brings them a feeling of elation, no matter what the kind of music it is. And so if that's what that music does for you, then we work with it. And sometimes actually connecting with aggressive, I do bring it in sometimes to sessions. Sometimes that's what we need to do, is connect with our anger and what we're frustrated with. And that can be a really great way to bring it up in order to move it through.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And there is some music that probably people would find unique that I enjoy listening to, that brings me calm, which are usually high pitched, high motivated, aggressive music. But it's motivating for me to do well. It gives me that kind of caffeine kick that I wouldn't get from coffee through music. I found it really powerful. And another thing that we were speaking to, Katie and we were speaking to on our episode, was in regards to mental fitness, was that spiritual side of things, aligning ourselves and our mind with things that we don't know, that we want to dive deeper into. And both of you are very predominant in that holistic and spiritual world. We all are. All three of us are very aligned when it comes to that. And I think the one thing that we have understood through COVID is spirituality that we're going through or questioning is very fragile. We're looking towards different things and different alternatives, and we're trying to ask the right questions to ourselves to find solutions. And mental fitness could also correlate with spirituality, of trying to understand who we are, or who am I, or why. And the one thing that we were talking about, Katie, in our episode was that profound search for our true self. And I know personally that the biggest struggle I was having with my mental fitness or mental health was, who am I? What am I supposed to do? Where am I going? And we had such a great talk about that, because in some cases, if we don't know where the road ends, that's okay. That's actually a beautiful part of the journey, is we don't know. And that's okay too. And I would love to touch more on that with you, Katie, about the kind of the spiritual side of things and the mental fitness and the mental health and aligning everything, because yoga is one beautiful experience with aligning spiritual, mental, physical from top to bottom. And what are your thoughts on the mental fitness in regards to spirituality and aligning oneself?
First off, Ross, I really want to bookmark that I don't have time to do this. I would challenge those that are saying that you have time to feel like crap. That is probably the greatest quote that was ever gifted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next time you're in that wall and it's like, I know that when I work out, I do yoga, I do mindfulness, I do my practice, my spirituality, I know I feel better. So therefore, there will always be time to feel better. It might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes tomorrow, might be 5 minutes next week, but you can make the time because we're here to feel good. We're here to be in the good. When it comes to the connection of spirituality and flipping over to mindfulness, you know, in our podcast, we talked a little bit about finding joy and what lights us up. And I had spoken about a little bit of, I said God. We do know that that's a sticky, tricky, challenging word for some. So God, Buddha, Allah, the trees outside, finding that in things that you connect with and lights you up. So maybe your mindfulness or your spirituality is painting. So that's your mindfulness practice. Again, it's shifting your perspective around what does mindfulness and spirituality look for me? It doesn't have to be sitting on the floor, cross-legged, you know, eyes closed. It could be out for a jog. It could be walking meditation. I spoke a little bit about holding my coffee in my hands and finding joy in that. A little personal story here. I tested positive for COVID yesterday. So I've been challenged with some physical things and some emotional things around finding out that I'm COVID positive. I
Right.
had choices today around my mental fitness of how I wanted to address that. And I met myself where I needed to be met. It wasn't a full hour-long yoga practice, but it was a practice. And it's again finding that joy in the moment, whatever it might be. And Tiffany, I listened to some music today that really uplifted and kept me present so I could be who I needed to be for myself, as well as anyone else that was needing some energy from me today.
Well, that's amazing. Well, first of all, we're happy to see that you're doing well and you're healing, and that's amazing. And I think that also brings up a really prolific moment is COVID has shown us a lot of things. You know, we have a lot of still uncertainty. And in some cases, we talk a lot about COVID, but we don't talk enough about how do we get back to the world that we remember? Because obviously things have changed. We are learning so much about ourselves. During this time of isolation or being away from friends, I really had to dive deep into myself. Whether I liked it or not, I had to find grounding. I had to find who I really was. And at the beginning of COVID and the beginning of the pandemic, egotistically, I thought to myself, I got this. I'm totally fine. I know who I am. I read enough books. I'm totally fine. A few weeks goes in, a few months goes into the pandemic and lockdown. Then all of a sudden I sit to myself and I stare and I look and I go, I don't think I know who I am, because I've never given myself time to do self-care. And the one thing that I found was so important was I dedicated and allocated an hour a day of self-care. And we talked before, Katie, about what things make us happy, and in some cases spirituality, or what brings us joy. You were talking about your coffee. For me, coming down in the morning at 4:30, yes, that's the time I wake up, not by choice, but I come down the stairs and my cat is meowing because it's a routine. Every morning it's a routine. She meows, I give her treats and scratches, I go do yoga or I do some exercises. I think to myself, my mental fitness, my alignment, my true self is just like that. That brings me joy every morning. Very simple, nothing extravagant. It's not like a shrine or anything. It's simple and simplistic. It's a cat. she's giving me morning cries or morning meows, and that aligned me perfectly to realize the importance of simplicity. It's very simple. I didn't overthink it. I just realized the importance of just simplicity. And I find that, I think in this world of mental health, and we're talking more about mental fitness, we sometimes are looking for such profound, large, extravagant results, or giant doors are opening, or some sort of giant movie premiere saying, this is the answer. But in some cases, it's not that big of a deal. It's quite simple. It's whatever makes you happy. And like Tiffany with music, our talk was so amazing because I didn't realize the importance of music and the importance of simply sitting and listening to something that brings me joy. And all the issues that I had in that day wiped clean just because I was listening to music. And with music therapy, what do you find that people are starting to learn more about it? Do you find that people didn't know what music therapy was? Or do you have clients coming in going, oh, I didn't know that I could do this?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
yeah, like,
As you said, you know, music therapy in its roots is an ancient practice. If we look at more indigenous and shamanic practices, if you will, although that's not modern day music therapy, came about around the world wars, so it's relatively short in terms of its time frame, right? But not a lot of people yet are recognizing. And what it is recognized for is there's some great stories around work with people with autism or on the spectrum, or with elderly individuals and dementia and that kind of thing. And so those are some of the quintessential areas where people might associate music for these special, we'll call them again air quotes, special cases, not simply for me or for my self-care or for my personal development, but that is, I think, what people are coming more into, looking for other ways to, and this relates to my own story too, with my own difficulties moving through eating disorders and just some of the challenges, the mental challenges that then were put into my body that couldn't be unlocked just through talking. And talk therapy, we talked about this in the podcast, is fantastic in so many ways, but there are so many different people, and different ways for different people are important. And so for people like myself, I found that talk therapy couldn't quite get into the ways that, as Katie was mentioning, some of the difficulties, the trauma had settled into subconscious and into my body, and so needed other methods. So music can be a fantastic way, as we know more and more with a lot more research that's happening out there, of really triggering and stimulating our neurology. Many parts of our brain will light up in response to, or be activated, I guess, light up on an fMRI,
right.
will be activated in response to music. And this can be really beneficial when it comes to repatterning, when it comes to creating new neural pathways and plasticity, all that good stuff. And these processes in our neurology are actually at the heart of transformation, of change, of meaningful, long-lasting change. And so music can be a really great way to get beyond the thinking, which is an important part, but it's only one part of our wellness, for sure. It can help us tap into that more holistic, integral component and get into areas that can maybe be more difficult, or that, as I did, I was able to kind of dance around with my words and talk and kind of say what people wanted me to say and all that kind of stuff, right? Without really getting to the heart of what was actually going on for me. And I find music and absolutely body-centered processes have been, the combination of the two have been really key for me. People are starting to understand that more and more, that it's not just for the realm of those with dementia or those with autism, for example, that it actually has lots of possibility for mental fitness, mental health, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's true, because when we were speaking, I was talking about a documentary that I saw about a woman, a World War II veteran, and she was dementia, Alzheimer's, didn't know who the family was had no idea what was going on. And the family started to play her favorite song. And all of a sudden, for an individual who was unaware that her family existed, had no kind of comprehension of who they were and where she was, anything like that, the song played, and instantly she could tell you where she was, how powerful the song was, who she was with, everything to do with that. It was like something in her mind just went pop and sparked.
Right.
And we talked about neural links and how sometimes we're driving down the highway, there's a roadblock, and we need to find ways of removing it. In some cases, we've tried everything. We've tried all kinds of solutions. That music is so powerful. That could be the remover of that roadblock, that you're now connected again. And that film, that documentary was so profound, because I thought to myself, we look through so many different places for answers when it comes to mental well-being, mental fitness, dementia, Alzheimer's, spirituality, everything like that. And we look and seek from the past. And in some cases, modern times, like modern individuals have the answers. And it's so simple that music could be so powerful. And like with yoga too, as well, and in Buddhism, the mantras, the meditation, the songs, just the simplicity of Om coming out at a certain hertz does something, well, to me, it shakes my core, because there's something so powerful about that. And like Katie, with yoga, do you utilize sound? I love talking about this music therapy because I think it's amazing. And do you use music or kind of like sound in your practices?
I do. Traditionally in trauma informed, we move away from music with lyrics because we know that that can be very triggering, and we know that it can really deregulate. So definitely when I put my playlist together, I keep in mind all the things that you just mentioned, Ross, around hertz and tone and intention. And for me, in my own personal practice, if I'm just having a bad mojo day and it's just stuck on me and I can't get it off, Kundalini mantras there's just something. There's just something about that whole experience that just heals me on a completely different level. And I've been able, when I've been working with, a group for a while, be able to introduce some of my Kundalini goodies into trauma-informed work. But yeah, for me, music is a big thing. I know that for some instructors that teach in the trauma-informed realm, they tend to keep it silent. I can't do that. I'm sorry, friends. I need a little music. Tiffany, I'm feeling you. And I'm like, I'm vibing with you. Like, music is, again, music is God, Buddha, Allah, the trees outside. It is it. And I've had so many yogis, whether it's been a public class or again, moving into the trauma informed, that have come to me afterwards and go, what was that playlist? Where can I find that? What was that closing song? So yeah, and so powerful.
Can I comment on that?
Please, yeah.
You're touching on something that's also really important, in that music and sound isn't inherently healing, and that it can actually, as you pointed to, because of the way it works with memory and our mental fitness and our cognition, it can be re-traumatizing for some people, which in a group yoga class is maybe not the appropriate place for that stuff to come up. In an individual therapy session, it might be actually a place to unpack some of that and explore it, but absolutely, it's not inherently healing for everybody. And so in a trauma-informed situation, 100%, it's really important, music without lyrics, or even music that isn't in pop culture or new. Or one of the benefits of live music is that it's made up in the moment. So it won't have as many of those past, potentially re-traumatizing triggers in them. And so really important point there that you mentioned. Thanks for bringing that up. And then just secondly, mantra, the word itself means it's a mind tool, manas, mantra. It's a way to move through the mind and work with the consciousness of mind. So mantras are amazing, amazing tools to work with our mental health, our mental fitness.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, because for me too, as well, like listening to those mantras and this, very easy going onto YouTube, picking and choosing these kind of mantras that you want to listen to, even throughout the day, I find it very peaceful. It doesn't distract me. It actually helps me stay a lot more focused. Now, Katie, when regards to like the trauma side of things, how do you help individuals in regards to mental fitness? Because obviously you're working with individuals who are in the front line, who are really diving deep into a lot of hardships and things that they have to be extremely strong. And in some cases, our frontline responders, our frontline heroes, like when I'm working in hospice, these physicians have to show strength. But I know that they are inside really struggling with their own mental health and their own mental fitness. But in some cases, they are showing a portrait of strength because they have to, because these are individuals who have to stay strong for our safety and well-being. When you're working with individuals, what kind of steps do you recommend for those looking to kind of, I don't want to say heal, but better their mental fitness, or, you know, focus more on self-care? What kind of recommendations would you have?
I just really recommend them leaning into stuff that interests them. I mean, that's the big kind of connection point. I know that we're talking about music and yoga and mindfulness, but let's eliminate all of those and put into the question of what lights you up. For a lot of our, I'm just going to say for the collective, you can add yourself into it or you can take yourself out of it, but let's use the word collective. For the collective, we've had a really hard couple of years. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're here, there, worked from home, we're frontline. It's been a hard couple of years. And the number one vibration that I've gotten from those that I've connected with is that there's been a disconnection or a numbness around feeling what they need to feel so that they can be present for themselves. It's one thing to be present for others. I'm here right now, I'm present for you. However, I might be really numb and not present for myself because I know how to wear a mask, let's say.
Right.
So when working with those that I work with, it's really about getting them to feel. I know it's hard, but getting them to feel what lights them up and letting them to start to feel that in the body. So, you know, again, going back to, if you want to get on the mat, and you want to feel like a super sweat and we're working one-on-one or it's a smaller class, I'm going to push you through that, but I'm also going to add in some breath and slow you down. So you can't be distracted by the physical movement. I'm going to also challenge you to slow down and be with your breath, because that's what's going to challenge you, not the yoga practice. It's when I slow you down and get you to breathe in your body. And when we actually feel in our body, that's when, again, we can start to move through what is sitting in the body. And that could be a whole lot of stuff: PTSD, shame, anger, anything, you name it. So it's really about, we get in there, we get in a safe space. You know what your safe space is. I'll ask you what makes you safe. If you tell me you don't know, I'm going to challenge you to be safe in your own body, and then we'll go from there.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I almost dropped something too. That was just like, I'm just like into this. I was like going, where am I? Because it is so true. It is, first of all, get on the mat. I think that should be a t-shirt, by the way, because that is just, you know, I think that's awesome. And second of all, I think we all can agree that being present is so powerful. You know, we think to ourselves how important it is to have these kind of ideas of solutions or techniques, but being a human being, that humanistic presence of an individual is so powerful. You know, for me, working in the end of life care space, when someone is going through the process of, one, being diagnosed with a terminal illness, or two, you know, in the process of going on to their next journey, when I first started, like in the mental health field, in the mental health space, I always thought I had to have answers. I always had to have solutions. I was prepared. I was always like going, this is how we do it. This is the steps. This is what the book says. This is what my mentor said. And I had one incident where I was prepared to give the speech, the whole speech of spirituality, what the next steps are, things like that. And I was speaking to an individual, and his wife was going through the process of passing and going on to the next journey. In my mind, I thought, this is the standard case as we always go through. This is how I answer the questions. This is how the process is. And I asked him, and I said to him, I said, whatever you need me to do, scriptures or spiritual texts or whatever you need, let me know. And he says, I don't want any of that. And I said, okay, no problem. If you want anything else, if you want me to say something or rekindle a spark of spirituality. And he says, stop. And I said, oh, I don't remember this in the textbook. I don't know where to go from here. And he said to me, all I want is you to be present. And I thought to myself, well, I am. I'm here. I'm with you presently. And I thought to myself, we are sometimes in a way overthinking and trying to find solutions to problems because maybe in the past that's how it was resolved. And when I came to realize the importance of just being present with an individual and saying absolutely nothing, and just showing that I, as a human being, are here for you when you need me, but if you don't need me, I'm still here, it completely changed my concept of what I was doing. At the end of the day, I changed everything I was doing. I was giving them the option of just being present. Because the one thing that we learned in the end of life care space in COVID was I can't physically be there anymore. It's digitally through Zoom. It's hard for me to hold space with someone through a screen. And I thought to myself, can I still be present? And in fact is that as long as they're holding the iPad or the phone or whatever, and they see that I'm here and present, focused on them, they were able to still do that same journey even though I wasn't there. And I'll ask both of you, do you find that with this change of COVID and the technology that we live in and the options that we have to use, do you find it hinders your practice doing it digitally, or do you find it actually quite beneficial? Like Tiffany, what do you think?
I think we talked about this a little bit on the podcast as well, but I usually just say it's different, and that there are definitely advantages to both. And there's lots of great ways to integrate work online. And coming from a music perspective, because that's what we're focusing on here with me today, there's lots of technology online, all of the streaming services, YouTube, the GarageBand. There's lots of technology that we can use when we're in person, but when it's kind of right there on your screen, there's a way we can interface together online in a way that's just like really quite simple. I'll often say something too, like one of my teachers often says that energy doesn't know time or space. And so that presence you're talking about, that liminal space, that ability to be in the moment with someone, transcends physical space and distance, or anything that is happening on a spiritual / energetic level. It doesn't need to be taking place necessarily in the same room. And I was definitely a skeptic in some ways when COVID began around music. Just how is the sound going to translate? But it actually really does. And I just hooked myself up with a really good mic. And I found that working with people in their spaces, which I think we talked about, can be really a juicy place to work with people, because it's their life. You're not going out even into some other place. You're not going into a new location, which can be nice. It can be good to remove oneself. Absolutely, that can be beneficial. And by and large, the things that trigger us, the things that come up for us in our day to day, are in our space. And so if we can actually do sessions and work in our space, or possibly even with the people that we interact with that can support us and or / trigger us, that can actually be really beneficial to dig into that and take the practice off the mat even, right? And put it into living practice. And so that's really a big benefit of online work that I found.
That's great. And I would say, Katie, as well, do you find that, especially with the side, speaking of trauma side, do you find it that social, or not social media, but technology is a benefit, or do you find it more easier to be more personal one-on-one? Because obviously in this ever-changing world, we may not be able to get to someone physically, but through technology, we're able to access that.
For sure, Ross. I will agree with Tiffany. I love the word, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for a word over the last couple of years to kind of sum it up, and it is different. Definitely from a trauma-informed lens, it really puts who's attending my classes in the driver's seat, because they can choose if they speak, they can choose what they're wearing, they can choose the space they're in, and then they can choose to have their camera on or off. In my clinical setting, I always leave the last like 5-10 minutes of the yoga class to make the choice to come off camera or come off of, mute, and to fill the space if they wish to, and they still get the ownership that you would have at the end of a traditional in-person yoga class where everybody hangs out and talks and that, right? But the main thing that has been different. And it's held me accountable to be really fluid and really engaged, because I've had to really shift again, what do I know to what I don't know, and creating the pathways to ensure that I continue to be humbled in the work that I do, because it's not just simply going in, doing it, and leaving. It is constantly evolving all the time. Every time I turn on the camera or I open up a Zoom class.
Yeah. It's true because especially with for me, like end of life care and working with individuals in that space or that realm, I always found I wasn't able to give them my all because I was using a Zoom or technology, because I felt to myself that I needed that humanistic touch. I needed to be, I'm here, everything is fine. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't accomplish that. And that also affected my mental well-being and my mental fitness, because I was looking in the mirror saying, I'm not doing enough because I can't be there. But over time and starting to understand, to ground myself, to realize that this is just the present moment, it's not forever, everything is impermanent. We know that this will end. But in that process, I thought to myself, how can I utilize this in the best way possible? How can I make this work for me? And it's funny we talk about music therapy, because I found was when I'm working with families, I'll play some music just on the side, nothing too extravagant, but something quite soothing. And individuals, like families, will start to say to me that this was actually quite calming. I'll play just relaxing classical music. In some cases, if I know the family personally, I would say, as we speak or hold space, the saying silence, would you like me to play something? Would you like me to do a certain thing? I give them the option of choosing. So I kind of make it a self-serve opportunity. It's like, what do you want me to bring here? In some cases, they said, where's your cat? And so I'll bring up the cat and show them. And I thought to myself, if I wasn't if I was there, I couldn't do these things. Technology has allowed me to actually show my true self and my true being around me, everything that's around me, being present, showing them different ways of doing things, different solutions. And I find it's going to be quite difficult to go back to being personal because, one, I can't bring my cat with me, and two, in my mind, I'm going to be thinking to myself, I'm so used to not talking to you face to face through a screen. It's going to be interesting to get back to that. So I'm going to have to take time to do self-care, to realize that things are changing again, and I'm going to have to kind of evolve with that. And I found that my self-care throughout this process was meditation, learning to do more yoga, listening to music, and I started to do more art. I started painting. Not very good, by the way, but I found it was quite enjoyable. And I would love to know, both of you, what, we talk about self-care and our thoughts and what we deal with and how we handle situations and how we work with individuals. But I think a lot of people need to know that we too are humans. We too have our moments. We too have to go through our self-evaluation, self-inquiry. Tiffany, and I'll ask Katie as well. Tiffany, what is your self-care practice? What do you do for the moments where you need to kind of self-inquire and take time? Like, what is your self-care routine, as they would say?
Hmm. Well, I would answer that in a couple ways. I definitely have a practice, a daily practice that I do, um, I guess for general care and general maintenance, and involves both incorporating mantra, and mindfulness around that, along with movement, free form slash incorporating some yoga postures into it. So I do that regularly. Within that, though, I also want to say that self care can look like so many things, and it doesn't have to be the meditation, the walk, the retreat center, the kind of. Absolutely, it can be. And this brings us to the personal component, right? And why working with people individually, or why asking a person what is calming music for you, versus, because we know from research that specifically designed music to be calming isn't necessarily as effective as a person's own choice, chosen music, chosen sound, for example, right? So coming back to self-care, it can look like cleaning out a space for me one day, or it can look like a bath. It can look like asking for help with cooking a meal. It can look for like going for a drive. And I think the key component for me is, again, just tuning into what Katie's been talking about, just what's going to help bring me back to my pleasure and my joy center, and it's not always the same thing every day. And so, and everyone's different. Some people are better with routine, but for me, I find that allowing myself that flexibility, and again, as Katie's been saying, taking off this idea that, oh, self-care has to look a certain way, it has to be a certain length, it has to have a certain feeling in order to be, no, 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 none of that. So just allowing that flexibility.
That's very true, because we have our thoughts of what self-care should look like, but in some cases we don't know, and that's okay, because we all have different ways of taking care of ourselves, and having that uniqueness that is individual is quite amazing, and that's what I love. And Katie, what is your self-care routine?
I'm a big believer in best starts. So I like to get up. It's always about coffee with me. That's all I ever hear from everyone. It's always about coffee. So there's always a coffee involved. And I gift myself at least 30 minutes as soon as I get up to do what joyful for me in that moment. And big thing is journaling. I like to sit and I like to hold space of gratitude for 5, 10, 15. Maybe it's only one thing I'm grateful for because I just got up. And then possibly some movement. I know that recently I'm doing a lot of travel with my team and with my work. So sometimes it's like just getting out of bed, having a shower, having the coffee, and doing the journaling. And movement comes later on. But a big thing too is that a best start isn't always in the morning. Sometimes as I go throughout my day, I kind of start to shift away from being my best self or my more authentic self. If I start leaning into, icky kind of, stuff, maybe I'm not eating properly, maybe I had too much coffee, maybe I'm starting to get a little judgmental, or that I'm starting to feel fatigued. So I will do my best start again. And that's sitting down and journaling. That's, reminding myself, what am I grateful for today? Maybe it's just doing a couple of sun salutations randomly in the middle of the staff room of wherever I am. And then I like to close off my day in the same way I started. So electronics are done by 9 o'clock, and I'm journaling, and I do get a yoga practice in the evening because that's my time. I've given everything I can to the day and to those that are needing me. And when I come home, it's my time now. And I dedicate it to journaling and to moving on my mat.
That's
So
awesome.
it's a multifaceted, and it's not the same every single day, but coffee, journaling, movement at the end of my day, those are the 3 guarantees.
I'm impressed that you get your electronics off at that time.
Yeah, I was
It's
just gonna
like,
say,
oh,
how
I
do you
love
do
that. It's great. It's awesome. An inspiring
It's
benchmark.
hard. It is hard because, my hubby he's a night owl. So he's like, 9 o'clock, like, are you 12 years old? What's going on here? I'm just starting to get into a movie. And it's like, if I'm going to be the best that I can be, I need to, this is what I need to do. These are my boundaries. This is my self-care. And you do you, and I'm going to do me.
That's true. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know how you turn off technology, because I'm struggling with that, especially because having an Apple Watch, everything just lights up, and you have all this technology that you're amazing how you can do that, because I find it very, very difficult. And I think that also hinders my self-care, because I just automatically wake up and look at my phone. And I know that that's not healthy, because at that time of the morning, there is no one there. It's, this is the moment where I get up, say hello to my cat, start doing my exercises. And I think that's very, very, very important for us to have that technology break, is to remove ourselves for a moment. It doesn't have to be for the whole day, but that opportunity to take time, self-care, self-liberate, self-realize what we need to do. And then we can go back on the technology. But it's so difficult. So, but it's great. Like, we have questions coming in, which is awesome. So I don't want to miss these questions, because there's some really great questions here. One of the questions is for both of you. Is there a specific place in your house where you would do your routine? And do you think this can be a good thing or a bad thing? So Tiffany, I'll start with you. Like, what do you think of that?
I do think that, and I do have an altar space. I do have a space that I can use. I don't always 100% of the time use it because that's just how I am. I do think that having certain routines for people, especially when starting, can be a useful thing in terms of just establishing any habit. We'll call it a habit, right? So having a certain ritual, a certain way can be a way of enforcing or imprinting that routine. That being said, if it becomes something that has to happen, or it has to be, or if there's rigidity with that, I mean, it's always sort of a playing with that flexibility of it, right? Like it's like I don't need to be at my altar to do my practice. It has things that remind me of beauty and my teachers and all that kind of thing that can help inspire me. So I would say that, yeah, if it does get to the point where it's like, okay, I need this, then that's something to look at as well. I guess that's how I would probably answer that question.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And Katie, what about yourself?
Welcome to my Zen.
There you are. We're already there.
I'm actually in it. So I do have a devoted space in my house where this is where I do my practice. This is where I do all of my virtual yoga and all of my psycho practice in. And it's known that in this space that it's high vibrational, it gets smudged. There is things that matter to me in here. There's a lot of, as I look around my room, I see a lot of, I have a vision board off to one side. I have the books that inspire me. So this is my place. And it's also known that those in my life, if they're in my house and I get up and I come into this room, it's known that this is my Katie's timeout zone where I've come into this area. What I need is in this space. And when I come out of the space, I'm again able to be fully present for everyone. So, and that's just for me because I need that structure in my life, and that's what works for me.
Yeah, perfect. For me, I guess it would be like the basement. It's quiet, it's cool, there's no noise, well, besides the cat. But I find that that is my safe place because I know there's no technology. There is only machines like a bike or a fitness equipment and my yoga mat. And I find that that is my perfect spot because I am not distracted at all by anything. It's sort of like a silent retreat. So I find that it does play a big factor because I tried to do yoga or mindful meditation in front of the TV. And my automatic thought was, I wonder what's on TV right now. I wonder what's on the news right now. So finding that space away from technology is really, really important. Another question is how do you know if you are mentally fit? Now, that's a tough one because there's so many different, and nothing is wrong, everything is different. For me, I find if I'm able to ground myself, do self-care, and take time away from the world outside to, to learn something about myself or take time for myself, I find that that means that I'm mentally a little bit more fit than I was. Now, I'll ask both of you, it's a tough question, but it is a profound question. Like, Tiffany, what do you think, how do you know if you're mentally fit?
I'm going to defer this question, to be honest with you, because
Good, yeah.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. What about you, Katie?
Yeah, this is a really challenging question. And I just want to acknowledge the person who asked it because I feel like if this is challenging us, then this is a conversation that needs to continue to happen. And we need to continue to be in this conversation. So I think the first thing that came up for me, and I can only talk from the perspective of this is really important, is I know that I'm mentally fit when I'm being proactive versus reactive. So proactive for me is when there's breath and I'm coming from a place of compassion and I'm coming from a place of collectiveness, versus reactive is very like egocentric driven for me and very much about what am I going to get from this situation, or why am I not getting this? And again, that's from the perspective of but great question. And yeah, we need to be more in the conversation around that so it doesn't challenge us all, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I think having that.
If I could just add for a moment.
Please, yeah, absolutely.
If we are, and the reason I defer the question is because I'm the term mental fitness is pretty much brand new to me. So like I could speak about mental health, but if we are talking about mental fitness in terms of cognitive like functioning, I mean 100%. There are definitely measures for things like decision making or memory and all that kind of thing. If we're talking about mental fitness in that way, if we're defining it more in terms of mental health basis, then it becomes maybe a little more subjective. And I would even say some of the answer depends on the individual themselves and how, kind of like what Katie was saying, how they're feeling, how they're noticing, how they're responding, how they're reacting, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's very, very true, very profound. In some cases, this is a new topic, a new idea, a new thought process, and that's okay too, because everything is different. We learn as we experience, and questions like this now make me think to myself, even after this, mental fitness, I don't really know too much about it. I'm going to learn more about it. But cognitive health and mental health, it's all kind of combines with everything. And I think at the end of the day, whatever we find that helps us with our self-care, self-inquiry, self-realization, self-liberation, whatever brings us joy, being present with a friend, experience music, yoga, meditation, spirituality, whatever makes you happy, really is the key to your success. Everyone is different. We're all individual. We may have thoughts on this kind of topic, but everyone is different. We take it as my mom would say, like a grain of salt. We take it as the ability to learn and grow from each other. And I would just have to say that I'm truly honored for both of you for being so candid and open with this topic and many more, because let's be honest, we need to talk more. The greatest thing that we have right now is technology. Yes, we know we struggle with it sometimes. I'm not very good with technology. I need to learn to let go of it. But if it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't have connected, and we wouldn't have this opportunity to speak openly, candidly through podcasts or with a webinar, and give people the opportunity to realize maybe I need to learn more about something. If I don't know the answers, that's okay. That's very healthy, because we are, as panelists, individuals in this space, even to ourselves, like going, I don't know a lot about it, but that's okay. And that's very, very healthy, because at the end of the day, if you know everything, life's kind of boring. We want to learn and grow. So I would say to both of you, I really do appreciate it, and I'm honored that you would be so candid and be open, because it is a very safe place that we have here, but it's also a place where we can experience and talk openly about things. So what I would say is with Tiffany and Katie, I want to ask, because we're going to get a lot of people asking where they can meet you or speak to you or talk to you or find you. I know that sounds really creepy when I say find you, but in a positive way. Tiffany, where can people who are listening right now meet you or discuss with you or talk with you or join you with some of your music therapy and other opportunities that you have?
Beautiful. Yeah, of course, there's the PsyMood platform, which all of us are there. Beyond that, my website is tiffanysparrow.com. So my name and then thebird.com. And then both Instagram and Facebook are at Tiffany Sparrow Music. And then I'm also on, this is the last place to reach out, but I'm on YouTube under Tiffany Sparrow.
Oh, nice. As well. Yeah. Oh, great. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. And Katie, where can we find you?
You can connect with me. Best place is Instagram. So lifespark_holistic.
Fantastic. And again, we are here with PsyMood, but we are individuals too as well. You have the opportunity to interact with us, but with PsyMood, we're just honored that they would allow us to have this platform to speak. And in honor of this, they want to offer a free 15-minute intake session. So we're doing a promo where you get 10% off promo code when you do your first paid session using the promo code PSY10, which is PSY10. That's a tricky one. But if you go to PsyMood, you can find all of us there. And you can also realize it with your free intake. When you meet with one of us, you get a free 15-minute session. So we really want to open up this platform because one, PsyMood prides itself on being diverse, multicultural, experience, openness. And we just want to say thank you to everyone that's attending with this promo code and free intake session. So go to PsyMood. You can find us all there. Go through the social media. We will have Tiffany and Katie's links all located after this as well. But Tiffany and Katie, I don't know what to say, but thank you, because really the podcasts were so empowering and enlightening, and now this is even more empowering and enlightening. And I whatever you want to say this to send off, please, what are your thoughts? What do you want to say as a send off?
I can definitely chime in. So, Ross, you just reminded me accountability partners are fantastic for mental fitness. So, I was just thinking, I need to message you, Ross, every night at 9 o'clock and say, I'm getting off social media. You need to get off social media. So, that would kind of be my end point is grab a friend, grab your animal. I love the fact that you're always talking about your cat and find your accountability partner. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, because I will hold you to that as accountability partner, because I desperately need it. So I'm literally going to put that in my calendar, because I'm very bad at that. And I would like to say that I talk a lot about my cat. I don't know if she likes me at all, but it's okay, because I have no idea what she's saying. Sometimes I think I do, but I'm happy with her, and so far she hasn't killed me, so that's good. And Tiffany, what would your final thoughts and observations be
I
as
just have
well?
to say this really quickly. It's a final thought, but just sound is a part of music and sound, right? So the fact that you've mentioned the sound of your cat several times is really beautiful, and I love it. And that's something that people can pay attention to is just the sounds. Doesn't need to be music, even just the sounds around them that bring them comfort, or the sounds around them that bring them joy, etc. And I would encourage everyone to just reach out, so even, yes, accountability buddies, reach out to us. We're available for you. Reach out to the people around you. That can be one of the best ways in these times. And there's many modalities and many ways to reach out now to find mental support, mental body health, etc. support. So yeah, please connect with us. We'd love that. And it's been a real honor to hold space, or to be in space with all of you, and really to hear more about I've met and I've heard a little bit more from Ross, and really to get to know Katie here too. That's been awesome. And just for all of you for tuning in, it's been fantastic.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. And side note, we're probably going to have a cat episode one day and a cat webinar. Everyone brings their cats.
Mine's right here.
See, look at that. There's cats everywhere. I didn't realize, I know this has nothing to do with the topic. I didn't realize how much I love cats until I had a cat. And there's something spiritual about cats. So that could be a different webinar. But her sound, music, there's all lined up. But again, yes, accountability, we're here for you. We're present with you. We're going to hold space with you. If you need us, we are here. You can always find us on social media or through the PsyMood platform. But Tiffany and Katie, thank you so very much. I'm overjoyed. I'm honored. And I truly am grateful for both of you to be present here, because I know you guys are super busy. And Katie, I'm so glad to see that you're okay and you're getting well. And thank you both so much. And thank you everyone for attending, and wishing you a wonderful rest of your evening. Wherever you are, stay safe, healthy, and joyous. And we'll speak to you all soon. Take care, everyone.